by creating seeds that don't renew. Monsanto bought up Delta and Pineland, which had the patent on the Terminator technology to create sterile seeds. But even otherwise, I'm right now fighting a whole attempt to introduce a GMO mustard, which is using genes for sterility. Seed is the very symbol of fertility. And it has to be hubris to try and induce sterility. But there's also the prevention of renewal of seed through law by criminalizing seed saving. Now, when all of this comes together, seed that has always been the basis of our food, the basis of our farming, is both becoming the danger to our food and the danger to farming. So when Monsanto entered India,
what year was that?
their first trial started in 1998. They brought in the BT cotton for experiments in 95. 98, they started field trials. And you know, they are so arrogant, they put full-page ads in the Indian newspapers, saying next year Indian farmers will be getting Bolgard, which is the trade name of the BT cotton. I read this, I rang up our environment ministry, I said, did they get approval? They said, no. I rang up our agriculture ministry, I said, did they get your approval? No. So I filed a case in the Supreme Court, they were stopped. But then, of course, you know, they were stopped for 4 years. By then, they find, you know, we'll bribe so-and-so official in that minister. And they managed to lubricate the machinery, very much like they lubricate the machinery in Washington, D.C. You know, I have watched over all of these years, the officials in Washington don't change. It could be Democrats, it could be Republicans. It could be Bush, it could be Obama. The same people stay. The same Michael Taylors, the same people. There was, of course, this term of revolving door, you know, Monsanto and back. But now they don't even have to revolve. They just sit. They feel so confident that no one can touch them. So eventually, when Monsanto did start to commercialize, they increased the price of cottonseed 80,000%. Now, you know, farmers don't have that kind of money, so they're given the seed on credit. And usually, you know, the local seed agent, who's the agent of Monsanto, say, just put your signature here. And then they fill in the rest, it's against land. 3 years later, they come and say, you haven't paid, so your land is now ours. That's the day a farmer will quietly go to his field. For whom, you know, for our Indian farmers, the land is the mother. And the idea that that land is being taken away, that day they go to the field, drink pesticide, go to the money lender the last time, to the agent of the pesticide and seeds, last time to borrow, but now for pesticide only, and drink it. And every case I know, the widow is informed by someone who saw the farmer's body in the field. A cottonseed, BT, non-BT looks the same. The poor wife had no idea they were getting into debt till the husband takes his life. You know what the number of farmer suicides in India are since Monsanto entered our seed supply? 300,000 now. 300,000. Now, I call that a genocide because it's deliberate. According to the United Nations, harm caused to a group of people by another group is genocide. Deliberate harm. Usually it's recognized in the context of ethnic cleansing. But this is a kind of ethnic cleansing if you think of small farmers as an ethnic group. They are a community of small farmers whose most important vocation is to serve the earth, protect the soil, save the seed, bring us good food. In my view, nobody else plays so many vital roles for the planet and for society as small farmers do. And that's why I've dedicated my life to protecting seeds on the one hand and serving small farmers on the other, including changing this bias that small farmers are a species that can be allowed to disappear. That somehow food will come from anonymous sources about which we don't have to think. I've had debates with biotech industry representatives who say, but Dr. Shiva, get used to the fact we'll be eating pills. I said, no, don't say we, say you. I want real food from real soil, real hands, real seed. And I'm going to do everything to keep that option alive. Many of you in this room are old enough to have remembered a film called Soylent Green. We don't want that future. We don't want that future. We want a future where we take care of the earth, our community, and our future generations. But there's another dimension to genocide. Because I think deliberate harm to future generations. I'm a member of a council called the World Future Council. And we got together because the future was totally being ignored. And future generations were being ignored. Their rights were being ignored. I come from a culture just like the Native American culture, which thought in terms of the 7th generation. We said, whatever you do, think of the 7th generation to come. If what you do will benefit them, take that action. If it'll harm them 7 generations down the line, don't. Now that's the reason we had sustainable societies. Because we were thinking 7 generations down the line. These days, politicians think in 4-year terms. Corporations think in 3-month terms. The financial world thinks in seconds. The blip on the risks of the graphs that go up and down. You know, if there's an attention deficit disorder, it's in the economic system. They can't pay attention. They definitely cannot pay attention to the future. So if, on the one hand, you look at the farmers of India and 300,000 suicides, and then you look at the children of this country and their health, that too is a genocide. Monsanto knew in 1985 that glyphosate is a carcinogen. And now when the WHO announced it, they tried to pounce on the WHO because they got used to pouncing on so many scientists and putting pressure to get papers retracted, scientists fired. I could go on and on about all my friends who've lost jobs. The only reason I haven't, I gave it up voluntarily in 1982. There's nothing they can take away from me. So knowingly, they have caused harm. I'll give you a very simple example. They always say Roundup can't affect human beings because we don't have something called the shikimate pathway, which is what plants have and bacteria have. And it's because the plants have it, when they spray Roundup, it disrupts that pathway and it kills the plant. That's how it works as a herbicide. What they ignore or deliberately don't tell us is this human body is 600 trillion cells, most of which are bacteria. Only 600 million are human. All those cells in our gut are getting knocked out with glyphosate residues. And if you look at the inflammatory diseases, the intestinal disorders, the fact that it's the bacteria in the gut that produce the enzymes that help the neurotransmitters. When you realize that the gut and the brain is connected, they are stealing our brains.
They
1 in 2 American kids will be autistic in 20 years' time. And you know, I read this in a USA Today. It's a junk paper, you know, but they put it on flights and you read it on long flights. And there was this article that 20 years ago, 25 years ago, the autism rate of the United States was 1 child in 100,000. 5 years ago, it increased to 1 in 65. About 2 years ago, which is when I read that paper, it had increased to 1 in 35. And at that rate of increase, you keep drawing that graph, 20 years down the line, every second child. Every second child. This deliberate harm with full knowledge is a crime. And we are organizing to put all of these different strands together. Because I think people should know how severe the crimes against nature and humanity are.
Yes.
And for anyone who thinks their little action in their local community is insignificant, we live in an interconnected world. And in an interconnected world, it doesn't matter where you begin the change. The change ripples through the web. That's the beauty of a web. And in the web of life, it is only the local where positive action will take place. For 3 reasons. First, life is local. You know, even the amazing hydrological cycle of this planet, it begins with little droplets. The clouds are formed with little droplets. The oceans are formed with little droplets. Our relationship with the earth can only be local. Astronauts can get impressed with the picture of the blue earth. But they can't serve it. They can't go put organic matter in that soil from their spaceship. Just as much as you can only take care of your children when you're actually there. Though they are, of course, doing a lot of IT innovation to keep track of what's happening to your baby you left behind in the crib while you went to watch a movie. You know, you got a camera, you got this, you got that, yeah, that you can keep track. And the next step of Monsanto insanity is they really think we are going to give up our relationships of love, our relationships of care for their control of data. They really, you know, because all of the herbicide tolerance failed, the Bt toxin has failed, nothing's working for them. Which is why they tried to buy Syngenta and that failed. Then they started to buy data. So they bought the climate data, soil data, and they're planting articles in newspapers. Big data means big brain. Just like Monsanto doesn't have a brain, as I said. In fact, big data means no brain. Because we did a lovely manifesto from this commission in Tuscany that I chair, and we called it the Knowledge Manifesto. And we wrote it in 2008 at the peak of the financial crisis. How is it that we've reached the stage where things are going so wrong and we can't make correction? And in that we have a whole section on information obesity. And just like, you know, too much salt, too much sugar, too much wrong fat, not very good for our body. Obese body is not a healthy body. Obesity of information is not more knowledge and definitely not more wisdom. And we need more knowledge and we need more wisdom. And we need all of this with the ability to act in order to make everything better for our communities, for the earth, for our neighbors. And what you started here in Mendocino, I nearly said Mendocino, with a GMO free, and now you're taking it to the charter, it's become so relevant because the California government is trying so hard to make life easy for Monsanto. And your charter needs to correct that. They say neighbor is only within 3 miles. I'm sure you visit neighbors who are beyond 3 miles. They say you can't exchange seed beyond 3 miles. And I know I had suggested that go exchange seed 3.1 miles, and you all did it, but do it again. The seed freedom movement. In the seed freedom movement, 2nd October is Gandhi's birth anniversary, and it's the day of Satyagraha, of Swaraj, of self-governance. And that's the day you really should have a very big seed festival. It's going 3.1, 3.5, 5, 10, whatever, wherever. Exchange seeds. And send messages to the people in Sacramento. Come and receive the seeds from us. In fact, I remember, in Germany they had tried to criminalize similar seed exchange. And East and West Germany had just merged, and I was doing a big conference, and this farmer came up to me and said, Joseph Albrecht, no more. He said, I supply seeds to my neighbors, and they're sending me notices that it's illegal. Can you help? I said, sure. Let's do a ceremony. Big ceremony in a church. He brought his wheat seeds, we distributed to everyone, and then we sent postcards to the German government. Then we've exchanged seed. You want to arrest 500 of us? Come arrest 500 of us. Most of us didn't even belong to Germany. Then they go on, and this is so important. This is why your county charter is so important. Clause 4 says, the bill would also prohibit a city, county, district, including a charter city or county, from adopting or enforcing an ordinance on or after January the 1st, 2015, that regulates plants, crops, seeds without consent of the secretary. They're trying to take away your freedom. Just as much as the Dark Act, the denial to the Americans of the right to know, is trying to take away the freedoms that have been exercised by the state of Vermont, which passed a law on labeling. Or the county of Hawaii, county of Maui, which said we won't have GMOs. So they're going to higher level to preempt and take away the powers at local levels that are enshrined in constitutions. Monsanto can only sell GMOs by destroying constitutions. If they had to work according to